Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another Becoming a Published Author is Fun. Now, one of the things I want to do here is, first of all, remind you that if you don't understand this, just check out episode 8. This is 2530. And I'm experimenting a little bit with how to use my whiteboard. And in the future, I might actually shift all the way over to Zoom's whiteboard once I learn how to properly use it. Um, but in the meantime, we'll stick with this. And what I want to refer you back to is my previous episode on this. I talked about investing yourself, and that's the number one here. Investing yourself in your character, taking your own personal traits and putting them into your character. Not necessarily all your traits, but some of them. You don't want to overwhelm the reader. So you want to, those traits that contribute the most to your story, that will be best presented through the character, those are the ones you want. There are some things that you might still want to retain as the author. And so it's a mixture of you using your own prose and also or allowing the reader to see through the eyes and hear through the ears of the character. Now, the character, in my opinion, that's the best way to go. But you still want to use your own prose and things of this nature. But whenever you have a choice, lean to the character. There are some dangers in that, and I'll touch on that a little bit here. Show through the character. I've already referred to that. The character has thoughts, has the ability to speak and to hear, all these things. Well, when you have a primary character, especially, you can, as the author, like I said, invest yourself into that character, but you can actually, as you're doing it, you are allowing the reader to identify with that character. And what that means is, as it goes forward, they follow that character, they know what the character knows, and they feel what the character feels, the whole emotional aspect of it. The more you get into it, the more it relates to that reader. And that's a good thing, because when the reader identifies with the character, it helps carry the story. Now you can do this with a primary character. That's your primary. That's your focus, where you're going to focus your attention. But you can do that with other characters. I may have mentioned this in the last video, but it's worth mentioning again even if I did. My mother-in-law, when I was writing a book, well, actually it was I think it was my first book I ever wrote. And I asked her after she read the book, she liked the book. And I said, who's your favorite character? Now, in my mind, the favorite character would have been either Noah or Jared, who was his, that would have been his son. And no, wait a minute, not son. Oh, that was his nephew. Yeah, that was his nephew. And the story centered on those two people. And she didn't choose either one of them. She actually chose one of the others, what I would call, if it was a movie, a supporting actor. That's fine. She identified somebody in there that helped her follow the story, be interested in the story, and get as much out of it as possible. And so that is why I say you can use these skills that I'm teaching you. You can use them for all your different characters. But I would be very careful on allowing all your characters to show their thoughts. That can get very confusing. You can do multiple characters that way, but we're going to focus on just one character here, and that's your primary character, in which the reader is allowed to listen in to the thoughts of the primary character, and that can be very revealing. I mentioned in the previous one, I might describe, as the author, I might describe the mountains and things of this nature, the colors, the multiple colors that you see, as you look at the mountains and things of this nature. And you can get very poetic in doing that. But as poetic as you might get, the character carries more weight. And so when the reader sees all this, and it can be very poetic as well, they actually get to feel it, to sense it, to admire it, to enjoy what the character is seeing, depending upon how the character is thinking and taking it in. And that is a skill that will take practice. Don't expect yourself to be the greatest at this, but it will take practice. The more you're able to do it, the better you'll be. And so that's why, those saying practice makes perfect really applies in this one. So show what you want the character to see, what you want let the reader see, and what the reader feels and senses about the scene, other people, other characters, everything through the eyes, the ears, the entire feelings of that main character. And you do that through the character themselves. It's if you can do this, and I would just recommend you just experiment. If perhaps you've already started a book, so take your prose, which I'm assuming you're not showing them through the character. You don't know this yet. If you do already know it, then you check to see if that's the way it works for you. But assuming you're telling the story from the author's viewpoint, telling the story and everything, take that. Then take the basics of that and put them into what the character sees, what the character feels, and so forth. And so that's called the show, don't tell. And so you're showing when you're talking about the author, but you're telling when you're referring to it as the author. You're showing through the character, and you just put them side by side and see which one conveys the same information, but in a more intimate, more compelling way than when you are telling them. Sometimes you have to tell. Don't get me wrong on that. There are some times where the author has to impose himself or herself into the story and tell what's going on. But whenever you can do it through the character, I'm saying that's the best way to go. And just experiment with it. It may not look right the first time around. Don't put your expectations way up here. Have some benchmarks. And if you can get where, say your tell is up here and your character is here, you want to bring it up. The closer you can get to where the tell is, the better. And if you can go above the tell, that's even the greatest. So you just want to compare. And maybe you can think of when you compare and say, oh, I could do this or I could do that. Just experiment with it, play with it, and see how it works. Then we get to allow the characters freedom. Now, I referred to this in the last video, that one of the dangers of getting your character involved is the character can take over the course of your story. Sometimes that is a very good thing. If the character is revealing things and doing things that's in line with what you're thinking to begin with, then you allow that character to carry the story along. Now, in your plot, maybe having let's see, maybe it's here and you're going up and up there, or going like better. That's better. So what is happening is that you're gradually doing it, but it could be your character says no, and let's go over here, and it goes right over here, real quick. Here, then I kind of want to go that way, but go up here. So going up real fast, it's a spike. Well, that's okay, because let's think of it this way: you're here, you spike, and then you continue to go up. Then you may spike again. That's okay, You got to keep careful of that and watch it, because the spike can actually go up and then back down, and then that leaves the character, or rather the reader, a little bit flustered, frustrated. My wife always said flustered. And somebody said that's not a word, but it actually is. But she would be flustered by it. Well, you don't want your reader to be flustered. And so the thing is, usually you want your uh, storyline to go sort of like this. But it's okay to spike it and then continue on. And so the thing is that you're not overwhelming the reader, you're carrying the story along. Well, sometimes when you are telling a story, so let's do it this way. Here is the author, and here is the character. And let's put this one. So you're going up like that, okay? Okay, so here's the author again, and here's the character. So you're going up here, all of a sudden the character starts going this way. Whoa, 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 what's going on here? And you keep on going up, and it's going up, and going in maybe an entirely different direction than you want it to go. Not only going up faster than you want, but an entirely different direction. Just because it's going in a different direction and just because it's going faster than what you planned doesn't necessarily mean you need to pull it back. Now, you may have to. You may have to go in and correct some things and bring the character back in line with your original plot. On the other hand, it could be the character. I know I'm talking about the character as though the character is actually human, but that character may have a better idea than you do. And so watch it, look at it, study it out, say, where's he going with this? Or where's she going with this? And the thing is, it could be in a way that's kind of mystifying to you, but at the same time, you think, I'm going to play with this a little bit and see just where this goes. Let it play out. You can always pull back, go back and redo it. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but if you are willing to give your character some freedom of movement, to give the character the freedom to carry, not only carry the load of the story, but to carry the direction and maybe even the speed. As long as you're in final overall control, give them that freedom and see where that character goes. It may be better than what you originally plotted. So then you just go back and change your plot. And then because you're going to be changing your plot as your story goes anyhow. You start out with a plot really small, maybe only a paragraph or so. And then as the story goes, you're going to be adding to that plot, expanding that plot. It's not going to be the story itself, but it's going to have a overview of it. And so it will change. So sometimes if you allow the character the freedom of movement, the freedom to express himself or herself, the freedom to go in a different course, a different way than you had originally planned, it might actually be better for your story. So just watch it, and if you have to, you can pull it back. But on the other hand, a lot of times the character is actually fulfilling what you wanted to do, but doing it slightly different than what you planned. And it may be not only that different, but better. And so that's something I want you to encourage you to practice. It takes time. Don't expect to have this nailed. Now, you might. I didn't nail it the first time I did it, but you might. But if you don't get flustered or frustrated or any of those words. Just be patient and keep trying and expressing and see what happens. Your character can be one of your most important tools that you have for making a believable story. And it's very possible the character may have a better idea than what you, the author, have. Just don't let the character get out of control. So you have the overall control, but within that control, the character has freedom of movement. Just experiment with it. I think you'll like it. I think you're going to enjoy doing it that way. And it may actually help you in other ways, such as when you hit a wall. The character may actually come up with a better idea of getting through or around that wall or over that wall than what you are. Trust your character. You created it. Trust the character to some extent and take it. Oh, and by the way, if you're using AI, I don't recommend you use AI to develop your story, but if you do use it, you're going to have to really focus on the control there. But I don't recommend you use AI to tell your story. You can have AI tell the entire story. But your publisher is, once they know that, may have some reservations. So be very, very careful. If you do decide to use AI to write your story, be very, very careful on how you do that. They can steal ideas from other authors, and that's called copyright infringement, and you can get in a load of trouble. Your best idea, I think, is to stick with your own brain. Keep your own mind involved in it. Keep your own influence. If the character takes off on its own, that's one thing, but don't let AI get involved in it. That's a dangerous thing. You can use AI for marketing. You can use AI for all sorts of things as a writer, as an author. But don't use AI. This is my recommendation to you. You're free to disagree, and obviously you're free to use AI if you want to. I just don't recommend you do so. You are walking a very thin line that can get you in a load of problems, a load of trouble, and I don't think it's worth it. And besides, there is that little issue at the end when you look in the mirror and say, I wrote that story. That's, folks, that is what, that is something that you need. It's important for you as an author, your own ego, if you will, to be able to claim credit. Now, if it's a terrible book, go ahead and blame it on AI. But if it's a great book, you want to be able to say, I wrote that. And can you really say that if AI did the writing? Not really, not honestly. But if you did it, if you keep your mind on it, your imagination, using all your inner tools, if you will, and all the tools that you've learned watching becoming a published author is fun, then you can claim that at the end. And that's what I'm hoping for you. You become a published author based on your skills. AI is a very useful tool. I have a lesson on that. I know those lessons will always be improving. I talk about it here in this podcast every once in a while, and it's a very effective and important tool to use. But I just don't recommend it for the actual writing or for research. Be very, very careful on research. Like I've said, it's amoral. It has no morals, and it has no compulsion, no restrictions. Is where it gets it, the information. It will even make it up, and if it's that is something you got to be careful about. But this here is something you can do and use, allowing your character the freedom to choose the options, if you will, of how they want to go. This way, or maybe this way, or maybe this way. But give them the freedom to do that and see where it takes you. I think you're going to enjoy it. Well, that's it for today. I do encourage you to watch, subscribe, to right down below here. You have the option to subscribe, and when you do, you encourage me. You get this podcast, and you also get my other podcast called Christian News and Views, where I give you the news, and I also give you my opinion. I don't mix the two, as the news media does. I give you the news, and sometimes my opinion might show up there, but I try to let you know it's there. And then I have a section called My Opinion, or just opinion, and there I give you how I see it as a Christian conservative, or conservative Christian, however you want to say it. Well, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next episode, and you have a great day.